All right. All right. See, hopefully this thing's still open. Hey, work this time. Trustee-ape. We're at the Trustee-ape channel. On this 4th of July, 2025, just going to spend a little time here today while I'm getting ready, doing my morning thing. So hello, welcome, and greetings, salutations. Not feeling especially patriotic today, but it is what it is. I'm sure people will be out there celebrating, and some will be out there protesting, and we all feel a certain type of way today.
Change the water every now and then, but now I'm going to go ahead and cover it and soak them for about 8 hours before, let's see, it's about 10:50 right now. It's raining outside, so I can't go outdoors, because I have some Italian parsley here that I need to use up, and I can use that for this recipe. So let's just go ahead and let this soak, and yeah, so I'll be back. Actually, the time is 8:53. Okay, so 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. About 4:53 is when I'll start cooking. I'm perfect timing, huh? Yeah, it's raining outside, so I'm not going to be able to, I don't know. I might go to the farmer's market today if the rain lets up. If not, I'll work out indoors with the windows open.
Oh, this is what cooking video. Are we vlogging now?
Okay, they had soaked for 8 hours, and I changed the water several times. And what I'm going to do now is cover them with fresh water. I just drained them in a colander.
A colander? A colander, yeah. She pronounced it like that. So I think if we are doing beans, there should be no knife play in this video, which is good. It's good. Gail always makes me very nervous when she uses the knives. Oh, that's the wrong button.
Yeah, that's about right. Okay, and then I'm going to add olive oil and cumin and minced garlic. So hold on just a minute. Okay, here is some garlic that I minced.
Wait, so she just said it was a colander, but that's just a pot, isn't it? Like, isn't the colander the thing you use to drain the water?
I'm going to have to turn the camera off. Well, I'm going to get it all out of here, but I'm just showing you what I'm doing. I'll get the rest of it in there, and then I'm going to be putting in...
Did I have that wrong? What's the thing that you use to drain the water? I guess, no, sieve is different. I thought that was a colander.
A tablespoon of cumin and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so here is...
I love how she has the caption or whatever up in the corner. This is too much water. I wonder what the batshit craziest thing that Christians believe is. I think it depends on the denomination. I had a friend of mine, I've told this story on here before, but if you haven't heard it, my best friend in high school, we were having this talk about what it was like in heaven and what she believed about heaven, at least what she told us at that time, was, essentially that when you're in heaven, it's like having like an infinitely long orgasm. Like, like, it's going to be like the best orgasm you've ever had, and it's going to last forever. And that's what it feels like to be in heaven. I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird, bro.
The olive oil that I put in there. And this is the cumin. So here's what you're...
When you're enjoying your hot dog today, please reflect on the fact that Jesus never ate hot dog or wore a hot dog hat. Yes, indeed. And Jesus never came to America.
in here.
He has no affinity for us. I love how they're always like, oh, what is it? Is it like the New Jerusalem or is it the New Jerusalem or Anyway, somehow they think that some Bible prophecies are referring to America, even though those people had no idea the Americas even existed.
I'm going to kind of like mix it all together. And then I'm going to simmer it covered. And while I'm doing that, I'll get my Italian parsley. I'll wash it and get it ready for the next step. So it's going to be simmered covered for 45 minutes. So let me just, okay. Go ahead and work on that. The beans are definitely tender. So now we're going to add the parsley, chopped up Italian parsley, and lemon juice and salt to the pot. So let me just go ahead and do that right now. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix it all together. I added a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, chopped Italian parsley.
The other one I like, I think it's like specific to Mormons or whatever, is the magic underwear thing. I think that one's really special.
And a quarter teaspoon of Himalayan salt. It doesn't have to be Himalayan. It's just that Himalayan. That sounds about right. Yeah. So I don't like my. This is from the American Heart Association Around the World Cookbook from the 1990s, and they tend to go low salt, which I like actually. Okay. It's common sense to me that I'm going to now remove the cover and now let it simmer for another about 40 minutes. We're trying to turn this into kind of like an Egyptian, what do they call it? Hummus deal, sort of, you know? So we're gonna.
So is she making? Is it a soup? Is it a spread? I'm very unclear at this.
A little bit too much water in when I decided to cook the beans. So I'm going to take the cover off and let it cook for another 40 minutes. And then I'll let you know what I think of this. First time I've ever made it. Okay, this is what it looks like. I gotta give you fair warning. You need to be careful that you don't put too much water in the beans, or you're gonna have to spend hours getting all the water out to get it to the right consistency.
Hot dogs? No, we had hot dogs. No, I'm not having hot dogs today. I don't think Gail is either. This is a beans, Egyptian or Mediterranean style, I guess. I'm not. It says Egyptian style and then it says Mediterranean. I don't know if there's a. Yeah. So this is kind of an oddity here, but yeah, no. I try to keep my hot dog intake to a minimum, just because I know it goes in those things, you know, and they're decent, but yeah.
Because I've been cooking this over the stove now for almost 2 hours just to get it to this consistency. Okay, but let me try it out now and see how I like it. And I actually want to get it down a little bit further, but it's getting close to my bedtime, so I want to get this cooking video wrapped up. Yeah, here, let me see if I can hold it.
Why would you do a video close to your bedtime? Why wouldn't you just do it at a different time?
The light. See, that's what it looks like. Let me try bringing it somewhere else. Okay, that's what it looks like.
Just take it out of the pot. Like, maybe if we saw it on a dish or something, it just looks funky in that pot, you know?
It actually looks quite good. I'm going to eat it with a pita. You know what? I think it's done. Yeah. Okay.
I thought they were... I'm not sure exactly. I think they were like garbanzos or something like that. Hey, Captain Tess, good to see you.
I will let you know. Hold on. You know what? The Tofoyan brand pocket pita is not bad. So I don't need to make...
Yeah, Rachel Ray, she is not. Although I'll say I think Gail Schuler is a hell of a lot funnier than Rachel Ray ever could be. But
if your recipe can work with a pocket pita, the Toufa, I think it's Fayam, that brand is pretty good. Yeah, I can live with this. I don't like Sam's Choice, but this brand is good. However, my homemade Greek pita is really good for the gyro. But this is working well. This Tofoyan brand is working well with the with this dish here, this Egyptian bean dish. Yeah, it's pretty good. I would call it a favorite. I don't know if I like it. I haven't decided yet. Hold on. I'm going to up the salt for the recipe. The recipe said 1/4 of a teaspoon. I would go with 1/2 teaspoon. Yeah. But other than that, it's very tasty. I like it. So I'll go ahead and post this at my cooking channel.
And that she did. All right, so that was Gail's Mediterranean style or Egyptian style beans, I guess. Get rid of that one. And I wanted to take a peek at this video. Is this the all puke show? Possibly. Good to see you, Jill Sam. Ah, shit, I did it again. I hate when that happens. Yeah, gourmet food for gourmet people. Oh. Sometimes she has good
I'm just a human being with a soul. I'm just kidding. I got my soul surgically removed.
Hello. Today, we have a little bit of a different show. This is not usually an interview podcast. It's usually a culture and political analysis podcast. But I recently got to know someone who really exists at the center of so many conversations that we have on this podcast, but who we have yet to hear from on the Fruity podcast mic. And so I thought, now's the time.
I have invaded Matt's place of residence.
Welcome to the podcast and welcome to my apartment, Vivian Jenna Wilson. Vivian, you have had a whirlwind few months.
I have, yes.
Sort of into public figurehood, into this like very strange internet spotlight, which I'm like sort of familiar with, but not nearly probably the way that you are at this point. And I'm just curious, like, how are you doing right now?
I'm doing good. It's definitely like a lot to get used to all at once. Because it was very much in my...
So this on the right is Elon Musk's daughter.
Specific instance, it was like there was no training wheels. It was 0 to 100. So it's a bit of a struggle to get like acclimated to it, but obviously I'm very grateful for all the support and love I've received. And this is just such a unique experience, and I want to enjoy it and like live life to the fullest.
You're giving your...
That was the most pageant.
You were giving your pageant answer.
Oh, I'm done. Hi, thank you. Thank you.
Do you want world peace?
God. I'm crowned the queen. I'll fight hard for world peace. Thank you. This moment means so much to me. I keep getting those fucking cheer videos on my TikTok.
I mean, it's an earnest podcast, but it's not that earnest.
So real.
That was like real pageant material.
That was real pageant material. That was my honest answer. I'm sorry. Damn.
Well, but it really has come at you so quickly. Vivian got to my apartment a little while ago, and we've just been having coffee and chatting it up. It's a really rainy day here in New York.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about how you went from like 22 followers on Threads one day to it just like ballooning.
It ballooned up, yeah, immediately. It went from like literally 22 followers where I was shitposting about K-pop and like chatting with a gaggle of other trans people on a dead app to like 60,000 followers or something like that in the course of one night. It was like nothing. And then, Jamie Lee Curtis just like knows who you are now. I'm like, wow, that's kind of coconuts.
And then I feel like there's also like coverage of the things that you put out on Threads.
Yeah, especially Pink News. I literally will like post anything on Threads and there'll be like an article about it the next day.
I mean, I'm so curious because like as someone who works like on the internet and like I do this podcast for a job and whatever, like everything happened pretty slowly. Like I've been doing this for like 6 years and like I've had time to incrementally get used to it.
So in this case, I would be like, okay, so it's kind of anomalous, but it's not really anomalous, like that she's blown up in the way she has because of Elon's commentary, right? So then people become curious, right? So they're going to want to go and look into that. And because she's like publicly available in these spaces, you actually have something of a dialogue, even though it's not between the two of them. You know what I mean? Like, so it is really because of Elon, I guess, that she's gotten as much attention as she has because he is such a prick,
Yeah.
I mean, just a few months ago, you were a very, very private person.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're less so.
It was crazy. I mean, I've always been like a pretty, I don't know if ostentatious is the right word. It was very SATs, but I've always been like a very kind of like extra person. Not necessarily extroverted, more so now, obviously. You kind of have to be. But I was kind of like overly charismatic, enthusiastic. I was kind of like, I had a bit of Thorgy Thor situation where like, if there was something I liked doing, was like, wow, you guys were gonna do it. I don't know what the fuck that voice was.
It was a little toad.
Wow, we're gonna save the castle. I don't know.
I'm just curious if it's been overwhelming or how you're dealing with it.
Like it has very much so been overwhelming, but like I am doing everything I can to not be overwhelmed and just be whelmed.
I was also curious, like, what made you decide to not like step into this role? There's not really
Spite.
a role, but like spite.
Okay, so the reason I got famous, for those of you who don't know, other than the nepotism, the reason the nepotism happened, Jordan Peterson was on a podcast with someone, and obviously that's the fucking thing where my son, Savior, he's dead. And Jordan Peterson was like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm giving the British accent.
It's honestly really good.
I think it's just way more funny that way.
I think you're making Jordan Peterson sound like a little bit nicer than he actually
I'm
sounds.
making him sound way hotter than
he's like, wow. Like, I think it's Jordan Peterson.
I feel like he can. No, that's too nasally. Hold on. He has this kind of like overly gravelly voice. Wow, that happened to your child.
Like,
That's actually accurate. That's like Toad and Jordan Peterson.
Neither of them can do the Jordan Peterson. You know, he sounds like fucking Kermit the Frog, basically.
What is with the Toad voices today?
yeah.
But Jordan Peterson was on this podcast and he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that your child is dead. And I was like,
Who was it? Somebody was doing a really good Jordan Peterson impression. Might have been Jim Bob, you know. We got to give credit where credit's due. I think Jim Bob does a good Peterson.
There in the corner of literally in my small fucking apartment in Tokyo going to college. And I was like, did this bitch just try to come for me? And I was like, no. No, I was literally like, hell fucking no. I am not about to let this bitch come for me and have that just slide. So I had my little threads response. I did
Pretty good for a dead
mega
bitch.
coconuts viral. I keep saying mega coconuts. I stole that from Natalie Wynn. I'm so sorry.
I also say coconuts and bananas all the time because of Natalie Wynn.
She has like infested trans vocabulary. It's super mega fucking coconuts.
So you hear this like dumb podcast
Yeah.
and you're like, nope, I want to have a voice in this.
I literally saw it. I woke up. I woke up to this. This is the first thing I experienced that day. Imagine the sun rising. You're like thinking, oh my God, I'm ready for another day. It was a week before my life. So I should have been studying, but I was like fucking around. And by fucking around, I mean rotting in my apartment, watching TikToks and like vibing. Then I take my little phone. I open the phone. I see a text from my aunt. I open the text.
I love the way you're telling this.
Yes. And she's like, this bitch just tried to come for me. For you. And I was like, gasp. Double gasp. This is not how it happened at all.
I love.
Hey, Halsey, good to see you. So the person on the left is Matt. It's Matt's channel, and he's just a gay dude. And then on the right is Elon Musk's trans daughter, who he claimed on the Jordan Peterson podcast was dead. And he said, like, my son is dead or whatever. This is the person he's talking about.
The like telenovelification of this family drama.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I love the I think everyone should telenovelize everything. I think it's more fun. I mean, influencers basically do that. I'm just being honest. I saw the clip and Jordan Peterson was like, he's dead. So the first thing I do is I text my mom and I'm like, I can't let this bitch get to me. I must retaliate. I'm so sorry, mother. I'm going into. I don't know what the fuck this bit is. I texted my mom. I'm just gonna do normal voice now. So sorry.
Sure.
I texted my mom. I'm like, I'm gonna go public. So sorry. You cannot stop me. And at that point, she was kind of just like, yeah, I trust you. Do what you need to do. Obviously, just be careful and whatnot. And then later on, I take a nap or whatever, and then I wake up and I text my friends. Obviously, I get like a bunch of texts because this thing went like super fucking viral. I don't think you'll understand.
Well, honestly, the people listening to this podcast were paying attention.
Yeah, the thing went super viral, and I'm getting like a bunch of texts, and I text my friends that I'm gonna go public, and my friend was. Here's the thing. I was like kind of used to that, especially after the book came. There was a book came out. They should talk to me. Whatever. It's fine. Fuck you, Walter Isaacson.
Yeah, fuck you, Walter Isaacson.
That was direct. And my friend also, I think everyone has that one friend where they get, because like I'm used to this shit. She wasn't. She was so much angrier than I was about the whole situation. Because I was like null and void to it. And I was like, I'm going public. And she was like, oh my God, bitch, fuck yes. I'm so excited for you. You better eat him alive. And I was like, I will do my best. And then I did my best. And then Jamie Lee Curtis followed me. That's the story of how it happened.
Prior to that, I mean, you had always lived a private life.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
And
I had like no socials.
Yeah.
My socials were all like private.
I mean, it feels like the privacy was almost kind of taken from you.
I don't know if it was necessarily taken from me because I chose to respond.
Yeah.
And when I chose to respond, I knew what I was getting into. And even then, I could have done the threads post and then disappeared back into the wind. And I didn't.
Yeah.
That's my choice. So I'm not going to say it was taken from me. I was given a choice and I chose.
You said a second ago to me that your response actually went more viral than the initial podcast clip. And how was that?
Validating.
Yeah.
Very valid. That was the moment I realized, oh, fuck, I actually do have a voice.
Yeah.
Because before that, I kind of was just like, I felt so powerless. Also, I had all this like pent up emotion, obviously from childhood and life and whatever. And it was literally probably the most cathartic moment of my entire life doing that.
That's really amazing to hear because I feel like I would imagine it could have been like super overwhelming, and it probably was. But
that is fucked up because like imagine like putting yourself in that position, right? Like as her finding out that your parent said publicly, you know, my child is dead, my son is dead, like essentially is referring to you, right? But you're very much alive. And what he means by that is that like because of the path you've taken, like I can't imagine, but I know that this has happened to people, but like as somebody who's dealt with like substance abuse issues and getting to a point in decision making where, you know, effectively your parents say, oh, that kid's dead to me, right? Like, but imagine doing that publicly, like not just to you, to your friends, but to complete strangers on the internet, you know. Is kind of the position that he put her in. And so, of course, she's like, hey, I'm right here, fuck you.
Good.
It was, but it was also like very exciting. It was like, oh no, it was very Jasmine.
Did you anticipate the level of support?
Honestly, no. I thought there would be a lot more backlash than there was. Obviously, the conservatives hate me, but I don't give a fuck what they think. So, girl.
It's easy to compartmentalize when conservatives hate you, I feel like. Like, for me, it's like, once you get called a faggot once, like, you've gotten called a faggot 1,000 times.
Once you get called an AGP once. Once you get called an HSTS brick hunt or whatever the fuck. Once you get called. This is like crazy 4chan lingo that my ex had to explain to me what an AGP brick hunt was.
I have literally no idea.
And an HSTS passoid. Because so people were calling me these things.
I have no idea what those things are either.
And I was like, apparently. I have no, like, she told me that people were calling me this. I was like, I looked at her, I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Okay, so apparently, here's the thing. I knew what passoid was. I did not know what any of the other ones was. Passoid it's like the most 4chan shit imaginable. 4chan has the LGBT board, the TTT1, TTTTT.
Okay.
And what it is, it's a bunch of like lonely conservative trans femmes in the closet who find the most obnoxious possible way to talk about literally everything regarding the trans experience. They call people who pass passoids as a derogatory term. They're like, also, 4chan is like obsessed with passing. Like, kind of the entire trans internet is obsessed with passing because it's like a reasonable thing to be obsessed about, especially when safety is in the picture.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's when the slur that someone calls you is so like.
I feel like that's okay. So that might be a good spot to move over here, because in this video I was watching, which came up, End Times Teacher said some things about this too. And, well, it's a good one because America is not free. The population are sleeping sheep. And the things he says in here kind of had me questioning. Tog and I were watching doing the review on the conversation they had. And then End Time Teacher popped this video. And he says some stuff that's relevant to what they were just talking about.
All right, I just want to go on a quick rant. So what I get tired of hearing, all these knuckleheads out here in the United States talk about is, I find it funny how everybody calls himself, a free citizen and, brags about being free. But yet the ironic contradiction of it all is that, and then on the other hand, everybody will say, well, I'm a law-abiding citizen. So what they're really saying is, look, I obey what the government tells me, and that's really all I know. Right? Whatever the rules of the land might be, I obey. It's like, okay, well, how does that make you free, though? Like say, for instance, how could you on one hand be free and, can make your own decisions and...
That's, his video is black, not mine. I didn't even check the stream. Should have done that, I guess. I'll do it after this since his video is black.
You do what you want, but then on the other hand, you admit, well, yes, I obey what I'm told. It's like, okay, but that doesn't make you free, though. Like, seriously, this is such a contradiction. Like, how can you be free on one hand, but yet on the other hand, you admit that you are a obedient servant to the ruling class.
How can you be free and have laws at the same time? Well, let me see. No. Okay, let's just let it go.
It's like, okay, like say for instance, you know what I find funny? Like the Americans will think that that's just logic, but yet if they hear a Russian say that about themselves, they'll think that that's hypocritical. Like, oh, well, how could you be free in Russia? How could you be free in Russia?
Well, I think the primary difference with like the way that Putin runs things is is the censorship, right? So, and if we say that you can go out to the street corner and say whatever you want about Donald Trump, I mean that's mostly true, or debatably less true today than it was a year ago. But anyway, generally, that's the idea here, or that the press can report whatever they want about Trump, whether it be positive or negative. But if you do that in Russia, they'll probably have you killed. So there's that aspect to it. Yeah. So when they're talking about like the rights we have as Americans being superior to other places in the world, that's usually what they point to.
Right? Like the Americans would think that's hypocrisy for a Russian to call themselves free, but then love their country. But yet the American can do the same thing, though, and, not think twice about it. Like, isn't that hypocrisy right there? But here's the main kick in the balls that we have to address. I find it completely hypocritical and delusional how everybody out here in America will say, well, yeah, all men are created equal. Right? Remember, that's the slogan of America. All men, whether they're white, black, brown, blue, or orange, everybody was created equal. Right? Everybody is created equal. But yet the ironic twist of it all, though, is then they believe, and their deluded and retarded minds, that there's such a thing as a lawmaker, right? Or legislator, or the lawmaker, right? The Congress of the United States. Which, by the way, in case you didn't know, the way they make rules is they can throw some ideas back and forth. Then if the majority agrees on it, they'll write out a bill, send it up to the president. If he signs it, now the bill becomes law. In a nutshell, that's basically how laws are made, at least in the United States.
Sort of. Not exactly. That's kind of how it works. Yeah, and, lawmakers are elected, right? He's talking about democracy.
States, right? But the point of the matter is the Congress, which is like 300 different men and women, they can come together, throw some faults back and forth. Like, say, if one of them comes up with an idea and say, just for a random example here, like, oh, well, maybe we should impose a tax to drive on the streets, right? To, maybe there should be an extra tax people have to pay just to drive around, to wherever they're going.
Well, the road tax, I mean, I think it exists to build and maintain the roads. It's not a tax for driving as such, but, if you want to drive on the road, everybody's got to contribute to the building and the maintenance of roads.
Oh, and if they can get enough people to agree to it, then it gets shipped off to the president, and he can sign it, and now it becomes law. But it shows that there's a small group of people.
That's not, I guess it is a matter of law, but it's, taxation is kind of separate from the way we enforce, traffic laws or something like that. Those are two I can't even think of the word I'm trying to use right now. They're two different fucking things, man.
And make up things out of their own opinions and feelings, and everybody else will be forced by violence to obey whatever those arbitrary commands are. So for one, that proves America cannot really be a free nation. If there's a couple guys in charge who can make up things and everybody has to obey what they say, that's not a free country. Like I'm sorry, but that's not a free country. Like, say for instance...
No, and it's not even supposed to work that way. Like, the way he's describing it is like there's just a couple of guys in a room who are just deciding what rules people follow. That's not really the way that works, is it? Like, there are people who are, like when they introduce legislation, it's usually based on, or ideally it's based on, like, the needs and wants of the constituents, the people who vote for those people in office.
How are you going to tell me? Yeah, how are you going to tell me that America is a free country that values the individual liberties and freedom of the person, if on the other hand there's a group of people who rule over the country who can make up whatever they want, and everybody will be forced to obey their arbitrary guidelines and commands. Like, sorry, but that's not free. You know, you're welcome to be a little pissant.
Well, it's because in democracy, the leadership is elected. And while you may say, yeah, that might kind of somewhat diminish the freedoms of those individuals, right? Those individuals collectively have decided that it is in their own best interest to allow for these elected people in government to make these big picture decisions on behalf of, you know, the group of people rather than just based on the individual's desires or whatever, right? So if all these people get together and then they take the majority of them want X, and then this person's job is to get what the majority of these people want, so their objective is X, right? That's democratic leadership.
Crybaby and believe that if you want, but it doesn't make you smart just to repeat garbage because you're brain rotted and ignorant. So let's recap real quick. So how is it that Americans claim that every man is created equal, right? All men are equal, whether they're red, blue, black, or white. But yet, on the other hand, Americans also believe there are some people who are more than just mere human. They're really like godlike, right? And they're the senators and lawmakers.
No, nobody says that. Nobody says they are godlike. We all know they're just fallible humans like the rest of us. Some of whom have like specialized education and experience that makes them well suited to those positions. Other times it's not. Other times it's just fucking nepotism or, you know, basically a popularity contest, you know. Not everybody who's in office is qualified to be there, but they're voted in. You can really only blame the people.
Literally call them lawmakers. So what that means is basically these couple guys have the power to make regulation out of their opinions and feelings, and we all must bow before them and obey. It's like, okay, well, doesn't that prove that you don't believe that all men are created equal? Because if they were all created equal, well, how the hell could some people have the power and ability to lay down regulation for everybody else to follow if your dumbass says that all men were created equal? So how the hell do they have the rights to control me and you?
Fundamentally does not understand how democracy works.
But only they have that, though. Like, seriously. And then second of all, where did they get the right from? Say, for instance, the founding fathers and their, documents that they wrote down, you know, at the birth of America, right, her early days, they wrote down and said, oh, you know, the Congress has the power to lay down tax.
I had to look this up because I wasn't entirely certain. I was like, I know that there's... So yes, in fact, the Continental Congress was essentially elected by a Democratic majority. So even then, you're fucking stupid.
It's like, okay, well, where did they get that right from? Like, say, for instance, I don't have the right to say, well, everybody in this neighborhood owes me a tax because, well, I say so. It's like, yeah, I don't have the power to say that, but how did the Congress get the power, though? Because didn't the people who just signed the documents, aren't they just mere regular human beings? So how did they get the power and the right to give other people the right to steal money from other people by way of taxation? You know, and if you ask the average...
Taxation is theft. Yeah. So, I mean, I like the argument in principle, but I just don't think he presents it well, right? I also think that some taxation is necessary. Now, of course, there could be excessive taxes, right? But I think in a society like ours, some taxes would be necessary. But I also think there should be some mode of consent to those taxes, and not that it's just something that you do by virtue of the fact that you work and contribute to the system.
American, whatever, man. All I know is I'm free. I'm free. It's like, okay, well, isn't your poor dumbass, working for, $9.80 an hour and you can barely afford rent and have to pay all these extremely high bills every month and probably have to pay child support as well? So in what sense are you free exactly, though? Just because you can, watch Netflix?
If you're able to maintain a relationship, stay in your marriage or long-term relationship, whatever, you live in the house with your children and a spouse, and you should never have to pay child support, right? Ideally, in a perfect world.
And chill for a little bit, like 2 times a week, the days you might get off, and not have to work for like 2 days of the week, which, by the way, most people can't really do that because out here, at least in America, most people have to work 2 damn jobs, and even that ain't enough to live a decent lifestyle. Like, shit, I'm seeing reports out here now saying that even making...
So, capitalism is against capitalism. I've got it now.
$100,000. Let me say that again. Even making $100,000 a year, you can't even live a decent lifestyle in America making $100,000 a year at this point. This is a real statistic. Look that up. even in America, if you're making $100,000, you can't even live a decent lifestyle in America in 2025. Just think about that for a second. It's like, this is crazy out here. Then a whole other thing to bring up is recently I was at Walmart and I saw somebody that was getting literally 4 damn bags of groceries, and somehow the total came up to $400. It's like $400 damn dollars. All they got was, a couple meats, a couple personal hygiene products, a couple candies, a couple, drinks and milk or whatever. How the hell is that shit like $400 for literally 4 damn...
I disbelieve this story. I mean, just as a person who does grocery shopping, you have 4 bags of stuff, and the items you listed, it does not add up. Like, even if you're buying, like, T-bone, filet mignon steaks and shit, the math ain't mathing, man.
Reusable bags full of groceries. Shit, on top of that, in a lot of states, now you got to check yourself out when you go to these stores like Walmart or Target or, Sam's Club or, so on and so forth. Like, shit.
I'm not aware of any store that only uses self-checkout, like exclusively. A lot of the grocery stores, they do have the self-checkout, which you cannot use if you're buying like alcohol or something like that, say, like an item where ID is required. But of course, people are encouraging self-checkouts, and generally it's quicker to use those rather than wait online, especially since the number of cashiers available is now reduced proportionate to the self-checkout.
I'm checking myself out, which is saving the company money and time because they had to usually pay somebody to stand there and check us all out. So shit, I should be, getting the discount.
Yeah, but they also have to pay to install the machine and maintenance the machine, so there's that too.
What I'm buying, if I'm doing somebody else's job. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, they don't even have the decency over here, especially in Jersey. Or,
And I mean, you're kind of essentially, yeah, there's the job of actually scanning your items, but the thing you're complaining about really is bagging, which, it varies, but, some stores have baggers, some stores don't. There are stores like, the big, like the bargain stores over here, that's the way they work it. Somebody checks you, they have a checker at the check stand, but then you still have to bag your own groceries, even in that type of situation. Because bagging is not always provided.
A few other states around the country to even give us bags on top of that without charging you for the damn bag.
Well, they charge you for the bag because of the environmental cost of the bag. They're not charging you for the bag itself, right? The bag tax that we all agreed on is because of the impact that plastic bags have, environmentally or whatever, because
This is bad out here. America is definitely in a decline. Yeah, it's really undeniable to see, America is clearly in a decline, right? America is a power who is rapidly in decline, and anybody who's not willing to acknowledge that and see the facts for what they are, that person's just willfully delusional and ignorant. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, I would definitely say under Trump, we've definitely suffered some traumatic setbacks, but, be all right, probably.
It's pretty bad when, people out here in college and are unsure about, what gender they actually are. Seriously, everywhere you go, you walk around, see people out here walking around looking like, 90% of the body is all tattooed, where you got people out here calling themselves dragons walking around, got grown ass.
Is any of that true? Are most college kids walking around with 90% of their bodies tattooed, calling themselves dragons?
And being pushed around in strollers like little ass kids.
Grown men being pushed around in strollers. How often do you see that?
You go to some of the stores out here, look at an attractive woman. It might turn out that's actually a damn dude. Like, I'll give it.
There we go. That's what I was looking for right there. So, ETT is mad because a trans woman can pass, right? If you were to find out that it was a trans woman because you couldn't tell to begin with, he might be, eyeing up some trans women if they're passing, but then he'll get mad later if he finds out they're trans,
exactly.
I guess.
Like, I was watching a commercial the other day, and you see this woman there on the couch, right? Looks like a nice woman there, but it turns out, as you watch the commercial, you find out that this is actually a transformer. So you're looking at a dude, but it's actually a supposed woman, right? Or looks like a woman, but it was actually born.
Well, you said she looked like a woman. but now you know that she was born in the wrong body, so now you're upset about it, I guess.
As a man, it's like, wow, this is crazy out here. This is crazy. And an empire can't thrive like this.
But I would call that a score for trans people, right? Like, if you're passing, you might fool ETT, really fuck up his worldview.
Comes a point when the bill needs to be due, right? And that's the point that America's getting to, right? Hey, as the Bible says, for her sins they have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities, right? The bill needs to be paid, right? And what's that bill? That bill is all of America's sins that she committed throughout her entire
repent, and ye shall be. What's the thing? Okay. Gotta go look at my stream. Then we'll see what this is all about. Probably gonna have to go soon. I'm pushing it. No. Soon. I'm pushing it. No. Okay. Looks good. Looks good.
Well, hello. It has been a while since I've been live, so yeah. How you doing? I figured, you know what? I'm bored.
That if you actually
Yes, they all
come
speak
say,
racist, as far as I know.
okay, so I get that.
Is it the United States because Jesus?
Sorry, we're looking for a particular thing in this video.
Or if your IQ is really so low that you can't understand a good
Well,
argument.
maybe my IQ's low.
I'm like,
Okay. Go somewhere in here.
take advantage of every hole you can find.
Exactly, I will. Every hole. Preferably 3 holes. Preferably 3 holes.
HR dropping stuff.
Take advantage of.
Would you mind if I finish this? Just like 36 seconds.
I do mind, but go ahead.
It's your
All right.
your stream. Take control.
They just, fuck you. I don't think so, considering I'm trying to make my own hope.
Okay,
John,
so
what
yeah,
says?
you're trying to make your own hope. You're trying to make your own hope, right? You're trying to pull yourself up and make things happen. But do you think that Jesus, the biblical Jesus, could help you in more ways than other people could?
Right now, no. And there we go. We are done with that. That's where that clip ends. I have to use OBS to record that because I'm terrible at making clips on YouTube. All right, Strawberry. Although I guess Strawberry would only apply. Would that apply to any stream? Take your on Hillary's, or should we use that word anyway? I don't know. I'm rambling.
I just use that in my own personal safe word, so it's easy to remember. If someone says something else, I might not, know
Yeah.
what it means. Like pineapple, and I just keep plowing away, and I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot. I thought it was supposed to be strawberry. I'm sorry.
Come on, Hillary's. Come on. You're just shooting, right? Oh, that's funny.
Moment of silence.
Scientist Sam, that is very subjective as to what is or isn't a welfare cheat. I mean, if that's written into the system that that's the law, is it cheating to take advantage? I'm sure that you don't pay extra in taxes, do you? Doubting Thomas says he loves parasites as long as they don't go too far.
I think I'm not on welfare. Kidding. Of course I am.
I think all Americans are pretty
Iron
much
Man.
on welfare.
Midnight. Why is Iron Man still able to comment here? Or
What?
why is Scientist Sam still able to comment here?
You are
Because I
so
let him.
drunk. You're so drunk. You're asking the host why he.
that was a Freudian slip, I think.
allows himself on his own stream.
No. I corrected myself.
Oh, okay.
Did you not
good.
pay attention?
I did. I still wanted to poke fun.
Hillary's. Do you ever misspeak at all?
I still wanted to poke fun though, so thank you for
Because
allowing me that.
Hillary's. I have 2 clips of you that I
Wait a minute.
can
If you have
release
to,
where you're contradicting yourself. On
hey, Hillary, do you want to see them?
So
I
are you
don't care.
drunk, or are you just contradicting yourself because you just say things that you don't realize?
I have been hit in the head a number of times, and so sometimes I say words that don't mean what I mean to say. So it's entirely possible that they could be brain damage caused
Honestly, still have.
So why is it that I'm drunk right now?
because of all the whiskey you drank, maybe?
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do we need to go back 5 minutes?
maybe if you go back a day or two, that would be correct. But
Well, I'm going off what you said about 5 minutes ago. You mentioned whiskey.
yeah. I'll go ahead and release the comment that you contradicted yourself about talking about black what did you say? Driving while black and walking while black. You contradicted yourself there.
What was the contradiction?
I'll show you in the video.
Okay, you go ahead and show me.
I will. I'll show you. I have the clips. But it's weird that you
Okay, so we go
take
from
every opportunity. No, pathetic people take every opportunity to jump on things.
Okay, fair. But what is your issue with Scientist Sam?
I don't have any issue with Scientist Sam, but I know you have issues with him.
Yeah, and I don't care if he's here. Like, I'm not gonna block him.
Bond feels so threatened by Scientist Sam.
I'm not threatened by Scientist Sam. I'm not threatened by Scientist Sam, but I do remember the last interaction that you had with Scientist Sam, and he actually stomped you because you were saying that you would defend. You said that everyone should defend themselves in court, and him and Dragnot joined, and it made you look like an idiot. And you just kept on holding to, well, Scientist Sam, you called me a retard, and technically, I'm not a retard. And you held on to that. I remember that last interaction.
I said technically I'm not a retard.
Yeah. You did. And Scientist Sam was trying to move the conversation forward, and then Dragnot was there, and then you just looked terrible in that interaction.
Well, that really makes me wonder if that's just the alcohol talking, or if your IQ is really so low that you can't understand a good argument.
Well, maybe my IQ's low.
I'm willing to accept
I need a clarification from you, Hillary. It's like, I kind of agree with this. I kind of don't. But you ever heard of the person who defends himself as a fool for a client? You ever heard that?
True. That's true.
Hillary said.
Hold on, Bob. Let him talk. Go ahead, Hillary.
But what I said was that I would not give up my rights to defend myself and allow someone else to plead guilty on my behalf or to do other things. And that's just it. When you hire an attorney, you're basically giving them all of your rights. So if they want to plead you guilty, you're screwed. If they want to say that if they want to make, quote, admissions in court that you have committed certain crimes.
I don't think that's correct, though. I mean, you may believe that, but I'm pretty sure if you're a lawyer, like, you can fire your attorney at any time as long as you're declared mentally competent or whatever. If they do something in court that you disagree with, like plea a way that you don't want to plea or whatever, like, you can just fire them on the spot. That's my understanding.
They can do it, and then you're stuck.
Hillary's Scientist Sam's here.
Well, just go ahead and make a job. That seems to be what you want to do.
Yeah, can we talk about one at a time, please?
Sure. What's the topic?
It was atheist, but now we're into this. Sorry, go ahead, Hillary. Respond again.
I was just thinking Bond seemed to want to give Scientist Sam a blowjob, so I was going to just offer him.
Oh, I said I wanted to give him a blowjob. Okay.
Well, I'm not sexually attracted to you, Bond. So
yeah, I'm
not
flattered. Attracted to you either. I like women.
Then we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah. But I'm just going.
I'm going to be doing dishes and stuff like that. So
I'm just going off the last conversation I heard with you and Hillary's.
And was that when Hillary's was arguing that you should represent yourself pro se in court?
Yes, you remember that.
It's just a terrible idea. But
yes, you remember that. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, like, we can just look at the stats, right? Like, the rates of bad outcomes for pro se representation are just much higher than when you hire an attorney.
Hold on, you're making it into a dichotomy. So if you represent yourself as first seat and you hire an attorney as your second seat, but you're not abdicating your rights to make decisions on your own behalf to someone else, you think that's bad?
Well,
is that how that works? I don't even think.
When you hire an attorney, you're not abdicating your rights.
You definitely are.
No, you're not.
Well, I've seen it happen plenty of times.
Okay, just because you've seen it happen doesn't mean like you are allowed. That's why you're allowed to have. You can toss counsel when you feel they're not representing you accurately, right? That happens pretty often.
You mean when you petition a judge to get rid of your counsel?
Yeah, that happens. Like, it's not it's not a very often outcome, but it happens.
Right. You just made my point. You can request the judge to get rid of your attorney, but you can't just do it on your own. In fact, the attorney can have you gagged, and you're not able to speak at your own trial. Because
but isn't that that's typically based upon competency? No, that's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you'd have to be declared mentally incompetent for something like that to happen, and that's not most cases. This is like probably a minority of cases.
Based upon like
again, you're
some
agreeing.
weird controlling maneuver.
Right. You're making my point. So you are in agreement.
No, because like again, like that's usually based upon when I say competency, it's the competency to stand trial, right? Which is the idea that you understand the charges that are being filed against you. Obviously, you can't toss out counsel if you don't have the ability to represent yourself. Anything I say not make sense there? I think this is like fairly basic knowledge.
And what is it about my silence that makes you think that you don't understand the point that you're making?
That you don't understand the point? I mean, I understood.
No, that wasn't my question. It was what you didn't understand. Clearly, I wasn't objecting to what you were saying. So the fact that you thought,
I mean, I just don't understand. Like, do we actually disagree, or is this one of those things where you just want to seem self-righteous? Because that's fine. Like, I'm not personally interested in it.
This is the case of Bond playing the drunken girl at the bar, playing "Let's you and him fight," and you fell for it.
I mean, I don't really care either way. I'm just on here while I'm running errands. But if it's really like bothering you, I still think that pro se representation is like a pretty idiotic. Like, you should almost never represent yourself in court. There's just too many legal disadvantages and outcome disadvantages.
Again, you seem to be trying to conflate different issues.
I mean, I'm happy, like, listen, man, like, I'm happy to ask this question to my cousin who used to be the assistant district attorney in Manhattan about what he thinks and who's currently...
So Hillary is saying you should not relinquish your rights, which I don't even know how commonly that occurs. And then Sam is just saying you shouldn't represent yourself in court. So completely talking past one another here, I guess.
Defense attorney. Like, I'm happy to talk to legal experts who are...
But I hear it gets better.
Like, his father is a judge, right? Like, that's my dad's cousin's husband.
Okay. Well, then go ahead and ask.
I've asked this question before, and they agree with me. So, like, I'm not really, like...
Well, I don't believe that they agree that you are accurately portraying my point. My point is that I am not going to cede my rights to somebody else for them to plead guilty on my behalf.
What do you mean by... Okay, so, like, let's break that down, because I feel like you're outlining what is a fringe case, right? Like, it's a fringe... Exactly. We agree, right? Like, you're not allowed to enter... You are not allowed to enter a plea for your client if they are found mentally competent to stand trial. Like, that's actually illegal, and you would be disbarred for doing something like that.
Oh, well,
Yes, that's correct.
All I know about is the cases where that has happened. Just like,
can you give an example? Like, can you link a court case where that's happened?
There was previously. I don't remember all the cases. I didn't write down who was charged with what. I've just seen them. It's just like
okay. So like this random thing that hopefully you remember correctly, versus what like a judge has told me about this topic.
Okay, but if I spoke with that judge and he agreed, the cases like I'm saying do happen, even if they are neat. Does that discount the cases?
I mean, do you agree? Okay, so like yes or no, you do agree that like that can be grounds for mistrial and potentially disbarment if you were to do something like that, letting down a client's confidence.
I didn't know about the disbarment, but I was aware of the mistrial because, and the other thing that I was going to say is just like I have seen judges in my capacity as a deputy, I saw judges enter a plea of guilty on the defendant's behalf. They did not allow him to have counsel. He had been in jail for 9 months on a charge that if they threw the book at him, the maximum punishment was 6 months in jail. And the judge told him that because he refused to plead guilty, he was going to enter a plea of guilty on his behalf. And that when he gets back out, because he's refusing to hire a lawyer and refusing to bail himself out of jail. And so if he disagrees with the guilty plea, that he can then go get a job and hire an attorney and try to have the conviction vacated after he got out.
So I'm going to need I'm just going to say like these sound like either extreme fringe cases or made up. So I'm going to need like some sort of sourcing here.
Okay.
Like your argument essentially is if you hire an attorney, they can do something that potentially is mistrial worthy, which like that's a bit like saying if you buy a product, it could get recalled, right? Like shit does happen.
Or you can get poisoned.
I mean, yeah, again, like shit does happen, right? It doesn't make sense, right? It's the same as saying don't hire an accountant because there have been accountants that have embezzled funds, right? Like so that logic doesn't really follow.
Okay, well, now that you've taken Bond's thing and played "Let You and Him Fight," you didn't even get a blowjob out of it because you said you weren't attracted to him. I don't know if you've actually seen it.
Well, what did I say that was incorrect in those?
Well, you were agreeing with me That isn't it. I'm not saying you're incorrect. I'm saying that you seem to be agreeing with everything I'm saying. I'm not finding things that you're saying that I'm disagreeing with. So I'm not sure why you're playing the game. Let you and him fight.
Well, I mean, the thing that I disagree with is I think it's stupid to sit as any chair in your own counsel.
And why is that?
I don't think because the outcomes are because unless you're a trained lawyer, generally speaking, the outcomes are worse.
Okay, so if you were sat first seat and you hired a defense attorney to be second seat, what would you do that would screw up your own defense?
I don't know because I'm not an attorney.
So you're making an
that's
argument.
The thing is I don't. So the thing is like it's the same as why don't you do your own dental work? Like I don't.
Okay, so Sam's argument is basically most people are just not qualified to practice law.
My own dental work because I just don't have the qualifications or the knowledge.
That doesn't make any sense. But yet you're arguing that you shouldn't brush your teeth. You should only let a dentist brush your teeth.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That
I'm saying for something like for something that would demand a dentist. So daily maintenance doesn't demand a dentist, but let's say some sort of advanced periodontal, let's say operation or prescription, right? Like you can't.
Right. So we're rabbit trailing. So again, even if you were to brush your own teeth, that wouldn't prevent you from.
That's actually a pretty good analogy. The way they're working it right now, I like
the dentist to get a prescription. Do you agree?
But that's not what we're talking about here. This is disanalogous.
This is the rabbit trail that you wanted to go down. So I agree that your rabbit trail is
well, no, my rabbit trail. Well, here's the thing, right? Is like the analogy that I'm making is in some sort of specialized like dental operation, not in just general dental upkeep, right? If you want to be bad faith about the analogy here, because let's be honest, you don't hire an attorney for general shit that you do yourself.
Right, unless you're like a career criminal or you're in business, which might be kind of the same thing. You don't just keep an attorney on hand, right? You hire one when you need one.
I'll admit it's not a perfect analogy, but it's very similar to, let's say, why like you would need a prescription or expertise on certain medications and procedures. That's more of the analogy if we're going to be good faith, but it seems like you're choosing to be bad faith here.
No, I'm going ahead and letting you play Bond's game that you're very interested in.
I mean, you can keep reiterating this.
Why do you keep putting my name?
Like I just don't know if you don't possess the basic social intelligence here, but like we're having a discussion. I don't personally care if Bond initiated it or not. Okay, then let's change. Let's change the topic. You're having a hissy fit. Let's change the topic then away from anything from Bond.
Just because you showed.
Let's change the topic away from me and let's have Hillary's and Sam actually have a conversation.
I guarantee I have a better idea of what I'm talking about than you do, but like you're acting quite hissy.
You're not a lawyer, but your daddy is, so therefore you know all the case law. We got it.
No, I don't know all the case law, but you're not providing any resources. You're just providing anecdotes. Oh, like if you link a case, like I'll look at the side chat right now. There's no cases there. Like I said, I'm willing to concede or find a legal briefing from.
Why are you looking at this?
Yeah, I think he asked for just like one actual case reference and didn't provide any, and then Hillary's referenced the video he saw, which might be evidentiary, right? But like you'd still have to provide a link to that source.
Yeah, when I already said I don't remember the litigants' names. I know it was in Harris
If
County.
you want to do proper debate, I'm just saying. Citation.
In criminal district court. I have an idea of what number it was, but I can't be absolutely certain. But when a judge says which I think is perfectly illegal, let's make sure that's clear. When I hear a judge say in open court, I am going to enter a plea of guilty on your behalf, and then all the stuff because I'm not going to repeat it, but like, was there a transcript taken of that? What's going to happen when you go look up the case? So even if I went and found 3 or 4 of those cases, you're going to look it up and say, oh, it says the defendant pled guilty.
I mean, like, it's going to talk about how the nature of the plea was entered. That's usually pretty standard on court cases, especially those that are, like, normally recorded. Again, like, this just seems like a diversion because you don't have any concrete. Like, I'll say what I'll accept, right? So I would say that I would accept something that was, let's say, a briefing from the Texas Bar Association or a briefing from the American Bar Association on the topic.
You think that the Texas or the American Bar Association is going into this court where a guy who hasn't bonded himself out, hasn't hired an attorney, and the judge is behaving illegally? You think that they're there writing these?
Listen, I don't know what resource. I'm giving examples of potential sources I would accept. I can't say hypothetically what.
You're making my point.
No, stop interrupting me. I didn't finish this. Hillary's, I didn't finish this.
Go ahead and finish.
I can't say exactly what that briefing would look like, because sometimes they do systematic studies of court outcomes, right? Like those do exist within bar association studies, like unless you disagree with that. So like it could be something like that. It could, it could be some sort of civil briefing, maybe an amicus brief on behalf of a defendant. Like there can be a lot of different things that can exist as evidence. I'm just not going to take your say so because it just doesn't sound possible.
Right. It's because it's something you haven't encountered before in your own personal life, and so you're unwilling to take eyewitness testimony from an expert who was actually present.
I just don't come across as an expert. I'm just going to be honest. Like I'm laying out, I think, what are reasonable standards. If that's not reasonable to you, we can change the topic.
The issue is, I am telling you that I can't provide any of those, and I'm telling you the reason why. The judge, like you just said, could probably be disbarred for doing this, and yet he did it. So why would it
So basically, we're going off of
behavior? Okay, you're talking while I'm saying, why would a judge document his own illegal behavior that would result in him being disbarred?
Because A, the judge doesn't document the behavior, the court recorder would. And then secondly, like again, like you're just appealing to some random anecdote and you're a guy on the internet I don't know.
Right.
So quite frankly, I don't believe you. So like if you're going to just keep filibustering and looping on this exact same point, we're not going to get anywhere.
Right. No, it's fine. I'll accept all of the concessions that you made and all your agreement with me, because in the totality, it seems like you agree with everything I said. It's just you want to conflate that if you represent yourself and hire an attorney, you're going to have a worse outcome. And then when I asked you why it would be a worse outcome, you couldn't give me an answer.
Well, statistics indicate that it's a worse outcome.
Well, if there are, what statistics are there where a person is first seat and they hire a defense attorney to be their second seat?
They've done studies on outcomes of self-representation. I can look if they've mined that specific scenario. I can look if they've mined that. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but I'm happy to look into it for you.
Because you keep saying self-representation. I want you to find out cases where a person.
Like, do you have anything beyond anecdote here? Like, this is fundamentally uninteresting.
Right, because you're making claims and they can't back them up, so you're uninterested in being caught in your lies.
This is the guy who's talking about random anecdotes that none of us can verify. Like, you can try to play these rhetorical games, but I'm literally the only one who's appealed to any sort of normal legal standing, and I'm the only one who's said sensible things. So, like, you can continue to grandstand. It just makes you look like you're a petulant little girl.
Right, you're full of shit. That's okay. But you're a scientist, so you don't ever make observations?
I'm not that type of scientist.
Yeah, so you're not a real scientist. Got it.
No. Like, what do you think I do for a living? What do you think I do for a living, buddy?
After admission that you're a fraud.
See, this is where you're just being childish.
Well, you've been childish all along, so I think...
we can look at what people think, and we can have people judge them. I think that you're just being a child because you don't want to make substantive points. You want to seem like you outwitted the big bad guy, and that's fine, man. If you're that insecure, that's completely fine.
You're unwilling to accept empirical observation, but yet you claim to be a scientist. So that's
I don't accept anecdotes. Scientists don't accept anecdotes as evidence.
You keep saying that. Eyewitness evidence is not an anecdote.
It can be an anecdote, and this isn't. We don't have actual evidence that you witnessed this event. It's an anecdote.
Well, we do.
No, we don't have any evidence that you would.
So basically, at this point, from what I can tell, scientist Sam is saying that from the studies he's seen, there's correlation to less positive outcomes with self-representation in court. Hillary's is not necessarily advocating for self-representation in court, but a particular type of it's like a particular stance with your counsel to where your counsel is like assisting you, I guess, which is technically what an attorney should be doing anyway. But Hillary's just wants to like make that a standard for how we deal with attorneys so that they can't take I don't know what the technical term would be, but it would be like, yeah, it's called power of attorney, right? That would be what it would be. Yeah.
To produce evidence, you said you can't produce evidence, so it's an anecdote. Like, why are we looping on this? I already told you what I would accept.
It doesn't work that way where you just filibuster and gish gallop and word salad, which you've been doing.
What's a word salad about what I said?
Okay, I'll concede that. It wasn't a word salad, it was just a gish gallop.
What's the gish gallop about it?
The fact that you think that eyewitness testimony is an anecdote, that it doesn't matter just because...
Okay. Good to see you, Hillary.
You don't know what my professional background is. There are other people here on the
I finally got it right.
side chat who do know what my professional background is, that do know the years that I was employed in that profession, but yet you don't know, so to you it's an anecdote. Because
you are a random guy on the internet.
No,
to
I'm
me
not a
right
random
now,
guy. I'm a very specific person. Just because you don't know what
okay,
words mean,
are we gonna throw a hissy fit and interrupt me one word into what I was saying? Continue. Come on, continue. I've already told you many times.
Can we please make it so one person talks without interrupting the other? Thank you. We're back.
So Hillary's, I'm just going to say it again, unless you produce some sort of case file or you produce some sort of report from and I'm willing to be very flexible on this, then we're just going to keep looping.
Yeah, that's
all. I've laid out my standards of evidence. So if you want to keep looping, that's fine.
Yeah, you're a looper. We got it.
You're the one who keeps bringing up the same thing over and over again, my guy.
And you don't seem to understand what evidence is. Learn what evidence is. Learn what eyewitness testimony is.
I don't think it's acceptable evidence. I've laid out I
don't care.
that I don't care about your anecdote. You seem very upset by that. And I don't really know why I laid out what I think is a reasonable set of criteria. And you keep you just keep going off like some weird emotional old fogey about the fact that I'm not impressed by your claimed background when I said I have an exact criteria, and you keep just looping around to how I won't accept your story.
Hillary says, a scientist that doesn't understand what random means. Also, who demands that I satisfy his demands when I see zero value in him or his demands? Yeah. On what authority, right?
That makes you upset, and I'm sorry that you're upset by that. I don't know what to tell you.
You are so full of shit.
How am I full of shit?
Because all your claims are bullshit.
Okay,
you're fake.
Stop.
It's okay. You already admitted to being a fraud. I'm willing to accept you being a fraud. Continue.
Wow, you are really childish.
Oh, come on, little girl.
See, look, we're going schoolyard insults now. This is really mature from someone who clearly is a legal expert of our time.
Wait, you just called him what he said to you earlier, and now he's calling it schoolyard.
Yep, a scientist that doesn't even understand what evidence is.
Again, just another personal attack, no actual substance. Come on. We can change topics. It's very clear that you've lost your cool on this. We can change topics to something you're less emotionally involved in.
I think that all the audience sees how full of shit you are, and just because you're trying to gaslight and project.
How am I full of shit? Again, what have I said that would imply I'm full of shit?
Pretty much everything that you said. But if
that is a classic.
This is a classic.
I'm not going to hear. See, this is just a classic. This is a classic gaslighting tactic from you. What's wrong? Everything. Pick out something specific.
Hello, one at a time. Jesus.
Yeah, he threw the claim of little girl back at him, and he tries to gaslight the audience into believing that he didn't do it earlier. Yeah.
Sam, maybe you're too stupid to understand, but if you ask a question and someone starts answering, you don't just keep going over them to try and confuse them. If I was to go back and pick out three things, all that you would do is use the same tactic and try to talk over me.
Pick out one thing then.
You're pathetic. You're a scientist that doesn't understand what an observation is. You're too stupid.
I understand what an observation is.
You're saying that I have to provide evidence that I said right at the beginning I'm unable to come up with because.
Then that's fine. We can move on.
Again,
I've suggested many times we move on. I am sorry you have early onset dementia.
You're just talking over. We can do this all day.
Okay, pick out one thing.
So I'm saying that there's no way that a judge is going to document his own disbarable behavior, the crimes that he's committing. And then you're saying, well, this is the only thing I'm willing to accept. Or I want Russell's Teapot, where the Texas Bar Association is going to come in to some misdemeanor case in a pretrial hearing on every 30 days. There's another bond hearing. And the person that's accused is saying, I'm refusing to pay the bail. I want my attorney. And the judge says, we're not going to give you an attorney, so you need to plead guilty. And they keep going around the same loop for 9 months. That's 10 different hearings. And the judge is still saying, because you're unwilling to go with the program of the crimes the judge wants, where you have to pay him, in order to hire an attorney and get bail or plead guilty. And the judge says, and again, this is eyewitness testimony, whether you're willing to accept or not is irrelevant, because I am not here to please you. You came in because you wanted to give Bond a blowjob. Apparently, you don't want Bond to give you a blowjob now. You would rather give him a blowjob, and that's fine. You've been doing a great job with your rainbow party. So go ahead and slurp, little fella. But anyway.
Dude,
Anyway,
I haven't said anything.
So I will say this sounds like an extremely like fringe case, right? This probably doesn't happen all the time. I'm not saying that this case didn't happen, but yeah, in the event of this, I mean that judge would obviously be guilty of some misconduct there for sure.
Last hour.
Yeah, can we if you're going to complain about people, like this is just mostly puerile
insults. This is only gone an hour long.
This is just puerile insults. Like
exactly the game that you wanted to play, Bob.
I haven't said anything in the last hour.
So let's do
it's been Scientist Sam burying your face into the concrete.
Bond, you really are that.
And now you want to bring my name into it about blowjob.
Well, he sees you having had a few drinks as an easy target, and that's fine. Well, like that's what bullies do, right? This is what bullies do, and that's fine.
When I see someone playing the game, lets you and him fight, and I call them out, which you have not been able to dispute yet.
Let's say that I have had a few drinks. What does that change in this conversation?
If you want to go around sucking on glory holes, then go ahead.
No.
I don't mind.
I don't know why we're shamed. Like why we're shaming people's fetishes. Like I don't have that fetish, but I just don't really see it.
I'm not shaming you for it. I'm embracing it. You
Shut the fuck up, Jesus! One at a time.
Let's say I have had a few drinks. What does that change in the conversation that Hillary's and Sam have had?
Hillary's and Sam didn't have the conversation.
You didn't have a conversation.
And Sam was stupid enough to jump on it. Just because Sam is stupid enough to bite, that doesn't mean that I'm engaging in a conversation with him. It's not.
You haven't had a conversation with Hillary. You haven't had a conversation with Sam this last hour. 45 minutes.
I have been having a monologue, and he's been having a monologue. We have not been communicating together. No.
Okay.
I think that's really the good point right there. Yeah, totally talking past one another. I think Sam is avoiding the point. He's just making like a generalization, right, based on some data he's seen about the pro se representation or whatever, and that's what he's going off of. And he's not really honestly considering the ideas that you're putting forth, Hillary's.
Responded directly to what you've said, so I just don't quite understand. Like maybe you just don't have that ability to interact with people socially. I don't honestly. I don't really see, because like you seem to be honestly just like quite emotional about the fact that I don't respect what you say at face value. It just doesn't gel with my personal experience of talking to experts. But I'm fully willing to be proven wrong if you provide something that isn't your own anecdote.
All right. I'm going to have to jump off there. But thank you, everybody who came by. Much love. Good to see Hillary's emails. Where's there? That one. And everybody else who was here, Halsey, and John Lovell. Trying to use my memory recall here for Captive Desk. Saw some people in the side chat there. Yeah, so with any luck, we'll be streaming from a new time and location soon. But all that'll work out in the wash. Much love. Be well. Stay trusty. All that jazz. Hillary says I'm being supportive of those kings. All right. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Happy 4th, everybody. Feel as free as you want to be. And fucking resist against authoritarianism and oppression. All right.